Hey everybody. So here we have an Ariens lawnmower. This was trash picked at the curb. It is a model number 911194. Has these swivel wheels in the front. It has a Kawasaki FJ180V engine. That is a commercial engine. And guess what? It is locked up solid. It is leaking oil too, or something is leaking oil. There was a puddle of oil on the floor here. So I don't know if there's a hole in the block or something else going on, but I figure it could be fun for us to tear into this thing together and see if we can figure out what's going on. I don't think they make this mower anymore, but when they did, this thing was about $700 or $800, so it's not a cheapy throwaway that you get at Walmart. So it's probably worth putting some time and perhaps even some money into. So enough babbling. Let's start by taking the air cleaner housing off, the starter off, and maybe we'll pull the plug. Actually, we'll pull the plug first and make sure it's not hydro-locked. I should call out that there is no oil on the dipstick, so that might be a reason why the motor appears to not want to turn over. There we go. Spark plug is very loose, so probably not dealing with a hydro-locked motor, but I could be wrong. That'd be wonderful if we were. Now you may wonder how this thing could get hydro-locked. Well, oh, look at that. I think we were hydro-locked. There is lots of lovely things coming out of that cylinder. So, all right, let's talk about how this might have happened. So, the fuel tank contains fuel. The carburetor is below the fuel tank. So what can happen is fuel can run from the fuel tank down to the carburetor, and if the needle and seat are completely blocked and stuck open, that can allow fuel to continuously run from the tank into the carburetor, again, because of gravity. And what can then happen is that fuel can leak into the cylinder and occupy the space between the piston and the cylinder head. And when the spark plug's in there, guess what? It has nowhere to go. You can't compress the fluid, and the engine doesn't turn over. So I am hoping that when I pull this cord now, lots of nastiness shoots out of that spark plug hole. But in anticipation of that, let me get a towel, because I'm pretty sure that's what's going to happen. So let's just, maybe attempt to not make a mess. Sure it's going to happen anyway. Notice it does spin now. So the engine is not locked up. Now the question remains, where did that fluid come from? That smells like horrible, horrible gas. So I'm pretty sure that's what's going on. And there is a whole mess of it that leaked out onto the motor. So believe it or not, this is actually good news. If we were dealing with an engine that was stuck for any other reason, we'd probably be looking at some major repairs, perhaps tearing the whole motor apart. Might be looking at piston rings, or a piston, or a connecting rod, or crankshaft, or all those things. But at least now the engine turns over. So let's now turn our attention to the carburetor, as that's probably where the problem lies. All right, there's a piece of tape here for some reason. I don't know why. What the heck? Was there a primer bulb there or something? Oh man, the things people do, I'm telling you. I can virtually guarantee you that's not supposed to be silicone. I picked up this 3/8 impact driver from Harbor Freight last weekend. It was on sale. You buy the battery, the charger, and you get the tool for free. That was kind of cool. Oh yeah, there's gas everywhere. Okay. Get our air filter element out. Never was fond of this air filter element on this engine, but that's for another day. Let's pinch off that fuel line because we don't need to make any more mess than we already have. And this does not appear to have inline shutoff valve, so we'll just pinch it off right over here. And let's see, does the whole cover have to come off to get the carb off? Maybe. Oh, we'll take it off. Not that big of a deal. Just a bunch of 10 millimeters on the top of the motor. The starter should come right off. And I guess we have to take that flywheel nut off. It's been a little while since I worked on one of these. Nope, it just lifts right off. What a mess. You can smell the silicone too. Is there another fastener somewhere? Oh yeah, there's another fastener. Right down here. Okay. There we go. Let's take our carburetor off here. Man, that stinks. All right, let's take our breather tube off. And what was this thing? I'm trying to figure that. Oh, this, I think, yeah, this was a primer. So it looks like there was a little tube that was connected here, a little purge bulb, but I'm guessing that broke and someone didn't feel like replacing it, so just block it off with silicone, no problem. That's what you're supposed to do, right? Let's get our fuel line off. And then we have our linkages. Looks like they only go on one way. And this is where our problem very likely is. So let's get this over to the bench. We'll take it apart, and you know what's probably going to happen. It's probably going for a bath in the ultrasonic cleaner. Let's get this show on the road. Fairly certain this is going to be pretty nasty. That's not a 10, probably a 12. Yep, 12 it is. Hold your breath. Ooh, wow, dark. Looks like oil. Kind of think that might be oil. I don't really know. That's pretty gross. Well, my hands are too dirty to hit the stop button on the camera. You see there's a lot of sediment in there. Let's continue the fun. Take out the float. I'm gonna pull this pin over here. Sometimes they don't like to come out. Sometimes they only come out one way. This one doesn't want to come out at all. Sometimes they're pretty stuck in there until you run them through the ultrasonic too. I don't know if it's the heat or just the crud on there. Let's see if we can get the jet out. Yeah, that's coming out. Emulsion tube. Jet completely blocked. Yep, completely blocked. Can't see any light. We do need to get this float out though, because this needle and seat is probably what's causing most of our problem. But tell you what, I'll throw in the ultrasonic cleaner for a little bit, and then we'll see if we can get it out later. It's some warm water, simple green. Start off with just a little bit. Throw our whole carb body in there for now. I put the small parts in a small parts bin here so they don't get lost. And let's let it cook for a while. Come back a little bit and see if we can pull that that needle out in the float. Can't forget the float bowl. Only about 5 minutes into things. Looking pretty good already. Let's see if we can get our float off. No, that pin ain't budging. At least not right now. Let it go a while longer. About 15 minutes later, you can see our bowl is nice and clean. Carburetor's looking much better too. So pin still does not want to come out. I'm not going to force it because I don't want to break the carb. Still a bit of varnish there. So I think we'll let this run a while longer. I might switch over to a different solvent. I might go straight carburetor cleaner, only because simple green I've found to be caustic at times when it gets to higher temperatures. But I'll let it run a little while longer and see how it goes. Hopefully you can see that the solution is noticeably darker. That was pretty light before. You can see through it. Now it's definitely murky. This is just about done, but while this is finishing up, let's just make sure the thing runs. Let's shoot a little bit of starting fluid inside the intake, add a little bit of oil to it, and just don't want to put a lot of time and energy into this motor if there's bigger things wrong with it. Just going to use some 10W30 for now, because again, this dipstick is bone dry. There might be a reason for it. Let's see where that puts us. Now with Kawasaki's, you don't turn the dipstick on the threads. That's definitely enough to start it. Going to shoot a little bit of starting fluid in the intake. Give her a tug and see what happens. Alright, at least she's a runner. I think we're past the point of diminishing returns. Things are looking pretty good in here. All the brass parts are looking like brass. Probably need to put some money into this car with gaskets and whatnot. The bolt on the bottom, I saw the gasket for that break apart when I took it off. So, carb's looking pretty good. Still can't get this pin out, but I'm not going to break the carb trying. I'll try something a bit non-traditional. So I don't know if you guys picked up on it, but one of the things that broke on this mower when I was taking it apart was this gasket on the bottom of the fuel bowl here. So this bolt goes in here. There's a little round paper gasket that sits between this nut and this bolt. Well, that Kawasaki part is kind of expensive, more than I want to pay for something that silly, so I'm going to try and make one. I'm going to use this Velcro gasket paper that I had in stock. I'll see if I can find it, leave a link in the description. I'm going to punch out a hole in this paper for this bolt to go through. So I'm going to try, let's see, this is a 7/32 1/4" drive socket. So we'll see if we can punch out a hole for this thing, just on the vise over here on the anvil on the back. Let's actually let's start with the bigger one. So this is a 7/16 1/4" drive socket. I'm just gonna pound this out here. Let's see if this works. Kind of. So now we have, whoops, after I drop it. So now we have this thing here. Now I'm going to pound a smaller hole in the center with that other socket. Hopefully this works out. I've never really done this before. I had this paper for years and never used it. So same deal, I'm just going to use the smaller socket, roughly dead center. We'll see if this works. There we go. Not perfect, but I think that'll do. All right, let's put our carburetor back together. Drop our emulsion tube in, and our jet. I think the bowl seal on this is still good, or at least good enough to try and see if the machine works. I'll just snug that up. And we put this doohickey on. Again, this carb has no choke, so this little purge system, that primer, whatever you want to call it, is the choke. Just shoots a jet of fuel up into the center there. Let me just check the orientation this has to be in. Okay, got the carburetor put back together, got the bowl nut on, the gasket seems to be okay. Just want to make sure you take note of the orientation of where this line needs to be, because there's that purge bulb that goes in the back here. You want to make sure that you don't have this mounted, say, on the other side of the carb. So here's the old purge bulb assembly. You can see it's pretty demolished. Got a new one from Kawasaki here. I'll leave a link in the description. It's not a cheap part as I recall it, but what OEM part is. So then this just slips in there. And again, this acts as a substitute for the choke, because this carburetor has no choke. Transfer our nut and our washer over and simply tighten this down. Wants to cross thread. There we go. Beautiful. All right, let's get this thing back together. Enough horsing around. So I have a new gasket here. The gasket on here is still good, so we're just going to reuse that. The bolts are going to pass through like so. Make sure we hook up the line to our new purge bulb, like so. Put our gasket on, and let's not forget the throttle linkage. You get a set of needle nose. Let's try that again. There we go. Perfect. We'll just get these bolts started. just so nothing comes apart. And then we'll shove this on there like that. This breather tube. Deliberately have not done the fuel line yet, because I want to add a shutoff valve for sanity, for me and for the next guy. Just who I am. Okay, that carb's not going anywhere. So let's let me hook up this end of the fuel line here. I did drain the tank out offline, so don't worry about that. We're not adding crappy gas back into this clean carb. So let's see, this line normally goes like that. So what do you think? We'll add our shutoff valve right below the oil filter, like say about here. I think that'll work. This is all it is right here. One of these guys. Actually, let me get 2 clamps, one for either side. Okay, got 2 1/4-inch fuel line clamps. I usually buy these in bulk. Not replacing the fuel line because it's still surprisingly pliable for its age. So don't replace parts that you don't need to, right? Beautiful. Now I think we can get the cover on. Let's see if it's going to cooperate. So we have to slip this back here, and we have to slip our intake over and over. Yeah, there we go. Wasn't too bad. Now we can put our starter back on. Let's make sure we can pull the starter okay. I just didn't lock it in place. Yeah, I did. Something got pinched. Yeah, we just clocked slightly differently from the flywheel, so it should spin now. Yeah, beautiful. Okay. Now what? What's left? I guess just the air filter, right? There was a bolt up here that we have to reinstall. That was under the air cleaner. Another 10. And then gonna put our pre-cleaner in, and then our main air cleaner on top, and then reinstall this cover. And hopefully this thing will work now. I expect it to smoke a lot because when I tipped it on, I don't know how the people that had this thing were storing it, but when I tilted it over slightly, black oil came out of the muffler. So I don't know if they were storing the whole engine on the side. Maybe that's why the crankcase is empty, or part of the reason, which means that there could be half a quart of oil in the muffler. I don't know. I guess we'll see. So let me get some fuel and gas it up. Let's add some fuel and check for leaks. That should be, there we go, get about half a tank. I would not be surprised at all if my makeshift gasket leaks, but we'll give it a shot. So no leaks so far. Let some gas into the carb. Wow. Kind of amazed. Let's see if our purge bulb works. Yep, there's fuel in there. Wow. Pleasantly surprised. All right, let's see if she runs. I'm fully expecting a smoke cloud, so I have the garage door open a bit. Yeah, that was pretty smoky, and it was only getting worse as the more I let it run. You can actually see a puddle of oil under the muffler. So I think we're going to take the muffler off and clean it somehow. Get that little bit of PV blaster, because those bolts look like they're a bit rusty. Yeah, I don't know what these people had done. They must have stored this thing on the side. Let's see if these bolts are going to cooperate. Yeah, I think they will. Don't let me forget the muffler's probably hot. Ah, I forgot. One more. All right, let me glove up and pull this thing off. There goes nothing. Feels kind of heavy. I poured about half a cup of oil out of this thing. Still listen to it. I'm shaking it next to the microphone. I don't know if you guys can hear that, but I can still hear stuff sloshing around in there. And that's about half of what came out of the muffler right there. I think I'm going to stick it in the ultrasonic cleaner for a while. All right, so I figured maybe I'd check out the blade while the muffler's cooking, and I'm speechless. This is probably the worst blade I've ever seen in my life. This is all wear. Like this, there used to be metal here. So this blade is dangerous, so I can't in good conscience sell or give this machine to anybody with a blade like this. Worn out. That is absolutely insane. Look at that. Man. This is nothing for all the grass that's caked on up under here. Wow. I'm amazed this grass is still green, honestly. This thing hasn't run in a while. Amazed the deck is still in reasonably good shape. Crazy. Okay, I think I found a blade that'll work in my bag of tricks. I remembered back in the day that I think that Ariens and Snapper had a lot of parts in common. I found this old Snapper 21-inch push mower blade that fits the blade adapter for this thing. So I think we might be okay, but let's give her a shot. So, flip this thing on its backside. Let's see if she fits. Yeah, you guys probably can't see this. I can barely see. Hopefully that's better. So it looks like this bad boy fell off of here. Put our blade adapter on. Surprisingly, it just fell off. I mean, how often does that happen? Like that. I think this blade should just fit like this. I think that'll work. So, the blade that came off, you're probably used to look something like this. Pretty scary, isn't it? I think it was an accident waiting to happen. Our muffler is squeaky clean, so let's reinstall that. Probably still a bit of water in there, but that's not the end of the world. Oh, nice big spider crawling across the mower. That's lovely. Let's get our heat shield on. Sorry about that. All right, let's just give it a quick tug, make sure there's no interference with the blade. I'm not expecting any, but just due diligence. Oh, she wants to start right up. All right, let's run it again, see if it smokes a lot less. Here goes nothing. You can see after a minute or two, the smoke just disappeared. So yeah, that muffler was just filled with oil. All right, I think that's about all there is to this one, guys. So as you can see, this engine appeared from the curb to be hydro-locked. In the end, there was just looked like a fuel oil mix that was locking up the piston from moving, hydro-locking the motor. So once we cleared that out, cleaned the carb up, did some other odds and ends, changed the oil, changed the blade, obviously. It runs great. So hopefully you found this video helpful. If you did, please subscribe. Stay safe. Thanks for watching, everybody. Take care.